Think about the best relationship you've ever had. Maybe it was romantic, maybe it was a friendship. What made it work? Trust, respect, consistency. Here's the truth. What makes love thrive is the same thing that makes leadership thrive. And if you want to lead, you need to learn from love. Love and leadership might seem worlds apart, but they're not. At their core, both are about trust, commitment, and the willingness to put someone else before yourself. When we understand love, we understand what it means to create safety, inspire loyalty, and build bonds that last. Today, let's explore how the lessons of love can transform the way we lead. Trust is built, not demanded. It's one of those truths that we nod our heads at, yet so often forget in practice. In love, we know this instinctively. No one walks into a new relationship and declares, "Trust me," and expects it to stick. It doesn't work that way. Trust is fragile. It's not a gift handed out on day one. It's a bond that deepens slowly through moments that prove reliability, honesty, and care. Every time we keep our word, every time we show up when it matters, we add another thread to the fabric of trust. And just like in love, leadership works exactly the same way. You can't demand it. You can't force it. You can't expect people to follow you simply because of a title or authority. You earn it day by day, action by action, choice by choice, until the people around you know in their bones that you are someone they can rely on even when things get hard. When I think about trust, I think about the small promises. We often imagine trust being tested in the big, dramatic moments, the crisis, the betrayal, the decision that changes everything. But the truth is, trust lives and dies in the small, ordinary interactions we barely notice. If you tell your partner you'll be home for dinner at 7 and you're consistently late without explanation, what does that signal over time? It signals that your words and your actions are not aligned. The erosion is slow, but it is real. The same thing happens at work. When a leader promises to check in with their team, but cancels every week when they say, "I'll have your back," but vanish the moment pressure rises, the bond weakens. Trust doesn't need to be shattered in a dramatic betrayal. It withers through neglect. And here's the part leaders often misunderstand: trust is not about perfection. In fact, perfection is impossible, and pretending to be perfect destroys trust faster than anything else. People don't want flawless leaders. They want human leaders. They want to know you mean what you say, and when you fall short, that you'll own it. Think about relationships again. If you make a mistake, if you forget an anniversary, if you say something hurtful, the trust doesn't necessarily vanish if you're willing to apologize sincerely and make it right. The same principle applies in leadership. A leader who admits, "I messed up. I should have handled that better. Let me try again," paradoxically gains more trust, not less. Because trust isn't about being right all the time. It's about being real all the time. This is where honesty comes in. Honesty is not about bluntness, and it's not about dumping unfiltered thoughts on people. Honesty is about alignment between words and actions, between promises and delivery. When we are honest in love, we create safety. When we are honest in leadership, we create clarity. People would rather follow a leader who says, "I don't have the answer, but I will find out," than a leader who pretends to know everything. They would rather hear, "This is going to be difficult, and I can't promise it will all work, but I will walk with you through it," than be sold a sugar-coated lie. Love thrives in truth, not illusion. Leadership is the same. Now let's talk about showing up. In love, showing up isn't grand gestures, it's consistency. It's being present not only when things are fun and exciting, but when things are messy and mundane. Anyone can show up for the celebration, the birthday, the big win. But real love shows up when you're sick, when you're struggling, when the future feels uncertain. Leadership mirrors this perfectly. Leaders who only show up when it's time to cut the ribbon, when the numbers look good, when the spotlight is shining, those leaders are not trusted. The leaders who are trusted are the ones who walk into the storm with their people, who roll up their sleeves when the pressure is high, who sit beside their team in the long nights and the hard seasons. Presence in adversity is the birthplace of trust. The reason trust cannot be demanded is because trust is a choice. In love, we choose to trust or we choose not to. No one can order us to trust someone. It is always a decision of the heart, built on evidence, built on experience. The same is true for employees, teams, and organizations. You can order compliance. You can order performance. You can even order silence. But you cannot order trust. Trust is given freely or not at all, which means if you want the trust of others, you must earn it through your behavior, not through your authority. One of the greatest misunderstandings in leadership today is that trust can be engineered through contracts, policies, or perks. Don't get me wrong, clear expectations and fair benefits matter. But those things don't create trust, they only create structure. Trust is deeply emotional. It's not about what's written on paper, it's about what's felt in the heart. It's the difference between being told you're part of the team and actually feeling like someone would fight for you, advocate for you, stand by you. You cannot legislate trust. You can only cultivate it. And this cultivation is slow. In love, you don't rush trust. You don't fast track intimacy. You take time, you prove yourself in little ways, and slowly a bond forms. At work, the same principle applies. Too many leaders want instant trust. They want people to follow them immediately. But trust is like planting a seed. You water it, you nurture it, you give it light. You don't yell at the soil demanding, "Grow faster!" The more patient you are, the deeper the roots will grow. And when the storms come, and they always do, the tree will stand strong. Think about the leaders you've trusted most in your life. I guarantee they were not the loudest, not the flashiest, not the ones making the biggest promises. They were probably the ones who kept showing up consistently. The coach who believed in you even when you failed. The teacher who stayed after class to help you, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. The manager who defended you when others criticized unfairly. These are the quiet moments that build trust. We remember them for decades because trust built slowly is trust that lasts. In love, we know that betrayal can happen in one moment. A single act of dishonesty, disloyalty, or neglect can undo years of trust. Leadership carries the same weight. One broken promise, one act of self-interest at the expense of the team, one moment where the leader abandons their people. And the damage is profound. That's why consistency matters so much. It's not just about building trust, it's about protecting it once it's there. Every decision we make as leaders either reinforces or weakens the trust we've earned. There is no neutral. Every choice is a vote for or against the bond. Trust at its core is about safety. In love, we want to know we are safe to be ourselves, safe to be vulnerable, safe to express our fears and dreams without judgment. At work, people want the same thing. They want to know that raising their hand won't get them punished, that admitting a mistake won't get them humiliated, that speaking the truth won't get them silenced. Leaders who create that safety earn the deepest trust. And when people feel safe, they give their best ideas, their best effort, their best selves. So how do we, as leaders, build that kind of trust? We start small. We keep our promises, especially the small ones. We tell the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. We show up, not only when it's convenient, but especially when it's inconvenient. We protect people when they take risks. We admit when we're wrong. We listen, truly listen, when someone is speaking. These may sound simple, but they are not easy. And over time, they add up to a reputation, a character, a bond that people will believe in. Trust is not glamorous. It's not built in grand gestures or big speeches. It's built in the quiet, consistent actions of everyday leadership. It's built when you stop to ask how someone is doing and mean it. It's built when you back up your team in a meeting instead of throwing them under the bus. It's built when you give credit instead of taking it, when you share the load instead of hoarding the power. Slowly, quietly, brick by brick, trust is built. And once it's there, it becomes the foundation for everything else: innovation, collaboration, resilience. Without trust, those things collapse. With trust, they flourish. And here's the beautiful thing: when we learn to build trust as leaders, we also become better in love. The lessons go both ways. Honesty, showing up, keeping promises, these are not just professional values, they are human values. Love teaches us how to lead. Leadership teaches us how to love. And in both, the principle holds: true trust is built, not demanded. Vulnerability creates connection. It's a truth we often resist because the very idea of being vulnerable feels like weakness. We grow up in cultures, in workplaces, in families that teach us to put on armor. We're told to be strong, to be confident, to have it all figured out. And so we polish our image, we hide our flaws, we present a version of ourselves we think the world will respect. But the irony is this: the more we hide, the more distance we create. The more we try to look perfect, the less we are trusted. In love, this is obvious. You cannot build intimacy with someone who never lets you see who they really are. If you are always guarded, always composed, always hiding the messy parts of your soul, your partner never truly knows you. They only know the mask. And you can't love a mask.
10.
You can't build connection with
8,
a fa.
7.
The same is true.
6. 5. We have to go ready to start. 2. 1.
Never admits to it. He never shares.
Booster ignition and liftoff of Shuttle Endeavour with NASA's final space station crew compartment that brings a bay window view to our celestial backyard.
But from honesty, think about the people you've trusted most in your life. Chances are they weren't the ones who looked convincing. They were the ones who were real with you. Maybe it was a friend who confessed they were scared of the future, and suddenly you realized you weren't alone
to the International Space Station.
Maybe it was a teacher who admitted they once failed too, and suddenly you believed you could rise from your own failure. Maybe it was a leader who said, I don't have all the answers,
32 seconds into
but I
the
believe
flight.
in us, and suddenly you felt strong
Three
enough
liquid
to step
fuel main
forward.
engines soon will throttle back to
Vulnerability doesn't push
72%
people
of
away.
rated performance down in the
It
bucket,
draws them
reducing the stress on the shuttle
Because
as it
when we
goes
show our
transonic.
humanity, we invite others to bring theirs. And that's where
Liftoff
connection is born.
of the
We
Delta
live in a
rocket
culture
carrying
that
glass,
confuses
a
authority
gamma
with
ray
invulnerability.
telescope searching for unseen physics
Leaders are
in
told
the
to project
stars
certainty,
of the
to
galaxy.
speak with confidence, to always know the way forward. And while clarity is important, certainty is often an illusion. The world is uncertain. The future is unpredictable. No one has it all figured out. And when leaders pretend they do, people sense the lie. They may obey, but they won't trust. They may comply, but they won't commit. But when a leader says, I don't know, but let's figure it out together, something powerful happens. People lean in. They feel valued. They feel invited.
T-minus 10,
They feel part of
9,
the journey.
8,
Vulnerability
7,
turns
6,
leadership from a
5,
solo performance into a shared
3,
experience.
2,
People feel they
1,
are building the future
0,
with you.
and
Not just
liftoff
watching from the
of
sidelines,
Space
but
Shuttle
commitment
Atlantis.
becomes limitless.
Mission to build,
In relationships,
resupply,
vulnerability
and to
is
do
the bridge
research
between
on the
two
International
souls.
Space Station.
Think of the moment when someone you
Houston
love
now
tells you
controlling.
something
Atlantis
they've
begins
never
its
told
penultimate
anyone
journey to
else.
shore up the
Their
International Space
fear
Station.
of not being enough, their childhood wound, their
Atlantis
biggest
now on the
dream.
proper alignment
That
for its
moment is
8.5 minute
sacred.
ride to orbit,
It doesn't
4.5
weaken the
million pounds of
relationship,
hardware
it
and humans
strengthens it.
taking aim on the international outpost.
Because what they're really saying is, I trust you with my truth. The
30
same
seconds
happens
into
in
the
leadership.
flight.
When a
Atlantis
leader
almost
opens
2
up,
miles
when
in
they admit they are
altitude,
human,
almost 6
when
miles
they share
downrange from
not
the Kennedy
only their
Space Center,
vision but their
already traveling
doubts,
500 miles
they are
an
saying
hour.
to the team, I trust you with my truth. And trust begets
The
trust.
3 liquid fuel main engines
People
now
respond by
throttling back to
lowering their own
72% of
guard.
rated
They
performance,
bring
going
forward
into
their
the bucket,
ideas,
reducing the
their
stress on the shuttle
creativity,
as it breaks
their
through the sound barrier.
concerns. And suddenly, what was once a room full of individuals becomes a team. Not because of politics, not because of rules, but because vulnerability created connection. Some might argue that vulnerability has no place in
Liftoff
leadership,
of
that it will
Space
make you
Shuttle
look weak,
Atlantis.
that people will
Final
lose
visit
respect.
to enhance
But
the
the
vision
opposite
of Hubble is in the deepest grandeur of our universe.
Vulnerability, when combined with courage, earns the deepest respect. Because it takes more strength to say,
Bypass across the board, Scooter, no action.
it takes more courage to admit
Houston now controlling,
help.
Atlantis on its
than to
way.
fake independence. It takes more character to own a mistake than to shift blame. People don't follow leaders because they are perfect. They follow leaders because they are authentic. And authenticity is only possible through vulnerability. The leaders who inspire us, the ones we tell
Atlantis
stories
on
about,
its way,
the
all
ones
3
we would
engines
follow
now throttling
anyway,
down as the
they
area
all share
begins,
this
as the
trait.
vehicle passes
They
through
are
the area
willing
of
to be
maximum
seen.
dynamic
They
pressure.
are willing to risk judgment.
Atlantis,
They are
Houston,
willing to put
no
down the
action
mask
on
of
the MPS
perfection
H2
and
outpeak.
lead as real human beings. That's why we trust them. That's why we connect to them. That's why we follow them, not out of fear or obligation, but out of loyalty and love. And here's the paradox: vulnerability doesn't create distance. It creates strength. When a leader hides weakness, people see only the leader. When a leader shows vulnerability, people see themselves in the leader. And that reflection creates connection. Because deep down, we're all human. We all have fears doubts flaws. And when a leader admits theirs, it gives everyone else permission to do the same. And in that permission lies the magic of connection. Commitment inspires loyalty. It's one of the greatest lessons that love can teach us about leadership. Love shows us that commitment is not about convenience. It's about consistency. It's about showing up not just when things are easy, not just when the sun is shining and everything feels effortless, but especially when it's hard, when the storm rolls in, when life tests the bond. In love, we don't stay only for the laughter and the joy. We stay for the tears, for the long nights, for the struggles that demand patience and endurance. That's what commitment is. It's the act of saying, I'm here and I'm not leaving, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's uncertain, even when it would be easier to walk away. And that is what creates loyalty. Because when someone knows you won't abandon them when the going gets tough, when they see that your word is not conditional, but steady, they begin to trust in a way that is unshakable. That's how love becomes lasting. And that is how teams become families. Leadership is no different. Too many leaders show up only when things are good. They celebrate when the numbers are high, when the project succeeds, when the recognition comes in. But when things falter, when mistakes are made, when pressure mounts, that's when many leaders retreat. They protect themselves. They distance themselves. They throw blame, or they disappear into silence. And in doing so, they destroy the very foundation of loyalty. Because people do not remember how you treat them when everything is going well. They remember how you treat them when everything is falling apart. Commitment is not tested in the light. It is proven in the dark. And when leaders choose to stand with their people in those dark moments, something extraordinary happens. Loyalty is born. Think about it in your own life. Who are the people you are most loyal to? Chances are they are not the ones who were only around for the good times. They are the ones who stayed when you were at your worst. The friend who didn't leave when you made a mistake. The partner who sat beside you when you were broken. The mentor who stood by you when others doubted you. Those are the relationships that change us, the ones we never forget, because loyalty is not bought. It is earned through commitment. And when you feel someone's commitment to you, your natural response is to give it back. Love inspires love. Loyalty inspires loyalty. Commitment multiplies itself in a cycle that strengthens bonds and deepens trust. The problem is, we live in a culture of convenience. We want fast results, instant gratification, immediate success. We swipe, we click, we consume, and we move on. And in that culture, commitment feels foreign. It feels old-fashioned. It feels hard. But hard is exactly what makes it meaningful. Commitment requires sacrifice. It requires patience. It requires showing up when every part of you wants to leave. And that's why it builds loyalty, because it's rare, because it costs something, because it proves that you value the relationship more than your own comfort. In love, that's what makes a bond sacred. In leadership, that's what makes a team unstoppable. When leaders treat commitment as optional, people feel it. They know when your loyalty depends on performance. They know when your support is conditional. And when people sense that, they never give you their full selves. They protect themselves. They withhold trust. They do the minimum, because why would they give their all if they believe you'll abandon them the moment they stumble? But when leaders prove their commitment consistently, when they show that mistakes will be met with guidance, not rejection, when they stand in front of their team during failure, not behind them, when they weather storms shoulder to shoulder, then people give their all. Not because they're told to, but because they want to. That's what loyalty looks like. It's not compliance. It's not obedience. It's devotion. Love shows us this truth in the most human way. Relationships thrive not because two people never fight, never disagree, never face hardship. They thrive because two people choose to stay again and again through every fight, every disagreement, every hardship. They don't quit at the first sign of difficulty. They don't treat love as disposable. They honor the bond with consistency. That's the kind of commitment that inspires a lifelong loyalty. Leadership calls for the same kind of consistency. It asks us to stay even when projects fail, even when morale dips, even when the future looks uncertain. When leaders commit like that, they create environments where people don't just work, they belong. And belonging is the deepest form of loyalty there is. I often say that leadership is not about being in charge, it's about taking care of those in your charge. Commitment is the way you prove that care. It's how you show that your people matter more than your ego, more than your comfort, more than your own safety. And when people feel cared for in that way, they return it with loyalty. Not the loyalty of fear or obligation, but the loyalty of love. The kind of loyalty that makes people say, I would follow this leader anywhere. And that doesn't come from charisma, it doesn't come from power. It comes from commitment. The irony is that commitment doesn't always look grand. It often looks simple, quiet, unremarkable. It's showing up for the meeting even when you're tired. It's standing by an employee when they make a costly mistake instead of shaming them. It's saying, we'll figure this out together, instead of, you're on your own. These small acts build a reservoir of loyalty over time. And then when the big tests come, the crisis, the restructuring, the uncertain future, people draw from that reservoir. They remember how you stood with them before, and they stand with you now. And let's not forget, commitment goes both ways. Leaders cannot demand loyalty they are not willing to give. Just as in love, you cannot expect devotion if you are not devoted yourself. Loyalty is a mirror. People reflect back the commitment they receive. If leaders are loyal to their people will be loyal to them. But if leaders treat people as expendable, people will treat the leader the same way. And in that kind of environment, no one stays long, no one gives their best, no one feels safe. It's only when leaders commit with consistency that people commit in return. That is how cultures of trust and loyalty are built, one consistent act of commitment at a time. Love and leadership are two sides of the same coin. Both demand trust, vulnerability, and commitment. When we lead like we love, with patience, with empathy, with courage, we don't just build stronger teams, we build stronger people. And in the end, that's the only kind of leadership that truly lasts